You think she's cold. You think she's checked out. You think the silence means she's moved on to someone else. But before you convince yourself it's over, I need you to hear this. There is one specific psychological sign, backed by actual research, that tells you the difference between a woman who has truly lost interest and a woman whose brain is working overtime because she can't stop thinking about you. Most men never learn to spot it, and they walk away at the exact moment they should have stayed calm. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which one she is, and you'll never confuse the two again. Here's the trap almost every guy falls into. He assumes attraction should look loud, fast replies, obvious flirting, constant availability. So, when a woman goes quiet, takes longer to text back, or seems a little distant, his brain jumps straight to rejection. But here's what almost nobody tells you. There's a specific moment, a specific trigger, where her brain flips from casual interest into something much deeper, and it usually happens right around the time she starts pulling back. I'm going to walk you through exactly what that moment looks like later in this video, so keep watching, because if you miss it, you'll misread everything that follows. Let's talk about why this happens in the first place, because understanding the mechanism changes everything. Psychologist Kurt Lewin describes something called approach avoidance conflict, which is what happens in the brain when a person is drawn towards something and afraid of it at the same time. For a woman who's developing real feelings, you represent both. You're something she wants to move toward, and you're also a risk, because caring about someone means she can be hurt by them. That tension doesn't cancel out the attraction. It just changes how it shows up on the outside. Instead of chasing, she manages the distance. Instead of being obvious, she tests the water in small, careful ways. That's not the same thing as not caring. It's a nervous system trying to protect itself while still being pulled toward you. Now here's where it gets interesting, and this connects to research most people have never actually heard of. In 2011, researchers Whitchurch, Wilson, and Gilbert ran a study on uncertainty and attraction, and what they found flips the usual advice on its head. When people were uncertain about whether someone liked them back, their attraction to that person actually increased, not decreased. Uncertainty kept their brain engaged, replaying interactions, searching for clues, thinking about the person more, not less. So if a woman seems unsure, hesitant, or hard to read around you, that uncertainty might be doing more work in her mind than confident, obvious interest ever could. Her brain doesn't switch off just because she's being careful. If anything, it's working harder. This is the part where I need to show you the green loop I mentioned earlier, because texting behavior is where this shows up most clearly, and it's also where men misread things the most. Here's the pattern. She goes quiet for a few days. Then, out of nowhere, she sends something low stakes. A meme, a random question, something that reminded her of you. You respond, the conversation flows fine, and then she disappears again. Most guys read that as mixed signals or her losing interest. But look at the timing instead of the content. If she reaches out right around the point where the silence has gone on long enough that she might be forgotten, that's not random. That's her brain tracking the gap and closing it before it gets too wide. People do not track gaps in communication with someone they've truly stopped thinking about. You don't monitor the silence of someone who no longer matters to you. If this is already sounding familiar, drop a comment and type the word "still here," because I want to know how many of you have lived through exactly this pattern, and I promise the next part explains why it happens the way it does. Let's go through the signs that separate real hidden attraction from someone who's simply moved on, because this is the distinction that actually matters, and getting it wrong costs men months of confusion. Sign 1, she remembers details she has no reason to remember. You mentioned once that you don't like mushrooms, or that your flight got delayed on a trip 3 weeks ago, and she brings it up unprompted later. Most people forget close to 90% of a casual conversation within a day, according to research on the forgetting curve first mapped out by psychologist Herman Ebbinghaus. Retaining small, specific details about a person is a sign that her brain is prioritizing information about you above the noise of everything else she hears in a given week. That's not politeness. That's selective attention, and selective attention is expensive. Brains don't spend it on people they don't care about. Sign 2. She gets slightly different around you specifically. Not dramatically different, just slightly. Her voice shifts a little. She fidgets more. She breaks eye contact a beat faster than she does with other people. Here's the important distinction though. Nervous system activation isn't automatically about you specifically. Some people are naturally more reserved. So the real test isn't, is she a little awkward? It's, is she a little awkward only with me, and relaxed and normal with everyone else? If the shift is specific to you and consistent over time, that's a stress response tied to you individually, and people don't have a specific nervous system reaction to someone they feel nothing about. Sign 3, and this is where I bring in that blue loop from earlier, the moment her brain decides you're safe. Here's what that actually looks like. It's not a single dramatic event. It's a gradual shift where the testing starts to soften. Early on, she might cancel plans last minute just to see how you react, mention someone else casually to watch your face, or go cold for no clear reason. This is what psychologists sometimes describe as unconscious relationship auditing. Essentially, her checking, can this person handle emotional weight without falling apart or losing his composure? When you respond to these moments calmly, without chasing, without getting defensive, without disappearing either, something shifts. The testing decreases. The random check-ins become steadier instead of erratic. That shift, from erratic testing to steady, low-pressure contact, is the actual moment her brain recalibrates you from risk to manage to someone I can be honest with. That's the blue loop, and it's the single most reliable marker that real feelings are forming, not fading. Now, here's something I want to be very direct about, because this is the part most content in this space gets wrong, and I'm not going to repeat that mistake. Not every instance of distance is hidden attraction. Some of it is exactly what it looks like, someone who has lost interest, or someone who was never that interested to begin with. The signs I just gave you are patterns, not guarantees, and they only mean something when you see several of them together consistently over real time. If a woman tells you directly she's not interested, or consistently avoids you, or makes it clear she doesn't want contact, that is not a puzzle to solve. That's an answer. Respecting it isn't losing. It's exactly what the emotionally secure man this video keeps referencing would actually do. Type real in the comments if you've caught yourself overanalyzing distance before, because I think almost everyone watching this has done it at least once, myself included. So here's the purple loop, the mistake that erases every one of these signs, even when they're genuinely there. The mistake is chasing the uncertainty instead of sitting with it. The moment a man starts over-texting, demanding clarity, or pressuring her to explain her behavior, he collapses the exact dynamic that was working in his favor. Remember the research on uncertainty and attraction from earlier. That effect depends on the other person maintaining some independence and space. The second you remove that by chasing hard for answers, you're not speeding up the process, you're often ending it. Because now the relationship feels like an obligation instead of a choice. Psychologist Helen Fisher, who spent decades studying the neuroscience of romantic attraction, has pointed out that the brain's reward systems respond more strongly to rewards that are inconsistent and partly unpredictable than to ones that are constant and guaranteed. That's not a reason to manipulate anyone. It's a reason to stop panicking every time things go quiet for a few days. So what do you actually do with all of this? You watch for the pattern, not a single moment. You stay consistent without disappearing and without chasing. You let her close the distance at her own pace, while making it clear through your own actions that you're steady, unbothered, and genuinely fine either way. That combination, calm presence without pressure, is what separates the man who gets clarity eventually from the man who talks himself into a story that was never real. It isn't about tricking anyone into liking you. It's about being secure enough in yourself that you don't need to force an answer out of someone else's timeline. If this video gave you a clearer way to read what's actually going on instead of just guessing, subscribe, because next week I'm breaking down the specific words and phrases that reveal whether someone's attachment style is anxious or avoidant. And that changes everything about how you should respond to distance in the first place. Drop a comment with which sign hit closest to home, share this with a friend who's been stuck over analyzing a text thread for way too long, and I'll see you in the next